Holding the Jihad's longest grudge, the Cappadocians were the clan of death before they were usurped by the upstart Giovanni. Believed for centuries to be destroyed, the Cappadocians either took to wearing masks and calling themselves the Harbingers of Skulls, or a sub-faction of the clan named themselves Harbingers generations before. Whatever the truth, the majority joined the Sabbat and worked aggressively against the Giovanni's interests. For many years, it was thought that both sides would never stop until one obliterated the other. But that appears to have changed with the family reunion. Despite the reconciliation and the acknowledgement of the remnants of the Cappadocian kindred, the Harbingers of Skulls, as they were, could no longer exist. But neither could the Cappadocians return to their former state after so many centuries of anger. As such, these vampires respond to either name, but they have become some synthesis of the two. Like all things, the past form has died and enriched the earth so that something new can grow. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back after long last to a Metaplot Monday where we're going to be going over the Loresheet Harbingers of Ashur, which is a bloodline specific to the Cappadocians, or to the Hecata, in Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. This is one of the many lore sheets that we've been going over, I would say recently, but we've had to take a little bit of a break due to nature. But this is one of the many bloodline sheets that go with the Hecata, showing the vast variety of families that have come together in the reunion to make up what the Hecata are now. Now, for those of you who do not know, the Harbingers of Skulls were a small, select bloodline clan within the Sabbat years ago that showed up in the late 90s to help start to focus the Sabbat's plans on how to foil the Giovanni. They are Cappadocians for all intents and purpose, and they were a shock when they showed up to the Giovanni, but they did have the classical Cappadocian disciplines, which were Auspex, Fortitude, and they had their own special little branch of necromancy called the Mortus Path. The Mortus Path was effectively Mortis, but it also gave them the option of practicing the same necromancy abilities that the Giovanni themselves had after they thought they had already disposed of the previous clan of death. So there's a lot here, and the fun thing is about that is, as much as there is a lot here, you could actually say that there's less here than many other clans, because the Harbingers of Skull did not come out to let people know their existence until the late 90s. And it's one of those things where they just kind of filtered in. They found allies within the Sword of Cain and were able to basically prove their worth by having creepy powers that people thought were long dead. I'm sure that the Cappadocians' alliance with Clan Tzimisce probably helped this. Also, their past workings with Clan Ventru as advisors to princes from the Dark Ages probably helped with this too, since a lot of the feudal-minded Ventru after the Anarch Revolt became Ventru anti-Tribu, because they wanted to keep the old ways of life, and they didn't really have any respect for human life or anything like that. But I am going on and on and on about things that we don't really need to be going through. That is lore for another day. Right now we need to be focusing on what the Harbingers of Ashur actually give us. Investing one trait into this lore sheet gets you the Ashen Mask. You don a plain mask made of ash wood. For while you respect the traditions of the Harbingers, you care more about studying death than status, glory, or revenge. If a touchstone of yours is dead, or dies after you purchase this lore, study of their corpse allows you to transfer the conviction they represent to another mortal, as if they died peacefully. If they actually did, gain 1 die bonus to the humanity test. If anybody else interferes with the corpse, you must test against Fury Frenzy at a difficulty of 3. This conviction can only be retained without a mortal touchstone for as long as the corpse of the previous touchstone hasn't decomposed beyond recognition. That was a bit of a mouthful, but it's also very interesting to see what happens in a more plain, written out way if a touchstone of a kindred dies. They tend to have issues if they die a bad death, but if someone dies a peaceful death, they have the ability to transfer that touchstone, or to transfer that conviction that represented the touchstone to another mortal that reminds them of that person. This allows you to have a little bit more leeway as long as you can study the corpse itself. This is something that I, as a storyteller, would allow my players to use over and over and over again if need be. But it is also another one of those things that really pushes how important touchstones are in the V5 setting, which I don't know if a lot of people do take that in consideration. I know my game, after running for as long as I have, I tend to let it fall to the wayside. But there's so many opportunities of personal horror and personal growth of a character if you get their touchstones involved more often. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you the gold mask. You don a rose gold mask because you strive to balance your existence between the living and the dead. Gold has connections to both wealth and alchemy, with golden grave goods sitting in the perfect intersection between the two. As such, you have the capacity to hide your actions and the actions of your coterie. As you explore death, you have the equivalent of 4 dots of influence when attempting to cover up a death. First off, I want to say I love the fact that they have compared death to alchemy here, because what alchemy really is the changing of things. There's actually quite a few alchemical theories that are active in the esoteric communities of today that talk about how alchemy, the transferring of, for example, lead to gold, is actually metaphorical. And it talks more about the human soul's transcendence to godhood, or the ability to just improve yourself, to make yourself a better person. And the fact that this is mentioning that, it really does kind of bring the whole Harbingers Cappadocian mentality to the forefront, because they believe that death is not the end, that you will carry on as long as nothing happens to your soul. So being able to wrap that all up in an alchemical formula is, I think, worth it to anybody trying to get within the mindset of the Harbingers of Ashur. Now, as for what this lore does for you, being able to have the equivalent of 4 dots of an influence to help cover up the actions of your coterie and yourself is massively, massively important. Having 4 dots in any influence is just a level of recognition in certain areas, and it doesn't even specify which, so it's really whichever one is going to help you out the most. Perhaps you have wraiths who are able to slip you the names or possibly blackmail information. Or perhaps you're just so well respected in the field of death that morticians will lie for you. There's so many ways you could take this, and I see it as being so useful. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you the White Mask. You don a bone white mask with not a speck of dirt on it, because it is the mask of a respected harbinger who was lost in one of the historic purges. You speak for the elders of your bloodline, and most harbingers, and even other Hecata, listen to you. You get 3 dice to any social roll against another harbinger, and 2 dice to any social roll against another Hecata. The idea of how the social mechanics within the new family, it's just something that I think a lot of us just walk blindly into. We take for granted that they get along, when in reality, they're striving to get along. I mean, I'm sure all of us have those family members that you love them, but you might not like them. But this is a relationship of convenience. This is a relationship that is allowing the bloodline to grow into something new, creating the Hecata out of a merging of so many different errant bloodlines who literally cannot stand each other, who have been spending the last 500 years trying to kill each other, if not longer. And the fact that they have decided to hold together to keep the promise of 1528. Sorry. Yeah. The fact that they're trying so damn hard to get along so that the promise of 1528 stays, that the agreement that the Ivory Tower made with the Giovanni still holds, even though the Giovanni only make up a small faction of this. The Harbingers now have several individuals within the Hecata who have so much respect because of the masks they don, showing that they are possibly descended from respected Cappadocians, that they are able to sway the mentalities and the social leanings of the Hecata from one way to the other in such a way. Harbingers obviously respect this more, granting them the 3 dots in social challenges as an additive, where the other Hecata have an understanding of why these ancient kindred are in fact ancient kindred and respect them for who they are. Investing 4 traits into this lore sheet gets you the Obsidian Mask. You don a polished black mask because you are more than just a vampire. You are truly half dead. You are a wraith that has inhabited a vampire's body. You may learn Oblivion ceremonies without a teacher, and with half the training time, if you have one anyway. Due to your experience in the underworld, you are vulnerable to effects which target ghosts, such as some Oblivion ceremonies. You suffer a 2 dice penalty to resist these effects. You gain a 2 dice bonus when resisting effects that control your physical shell, such as dominate. This idea brings on something wholly new. Because yes, we're talking about the Harbingers of Ashur, which are not all just the Harbingers of Skulls. I love the idea of a wraith that has inhabited the body of a vampire. I don't know 100% if that means that the wraith is in there with the vampire, or if when they died, the wraith was able to hop into that vampire's body so quickly before it deteriorated. Who knows? That's actually a theory that I've heard other people say about the Zameti, which I've always seen the Zameti as just a heightened version of Cappadocian, where instead of looking just like pallid corpses, they've begun to rot out completely. But when you deal with the Obsidian mask, you are literally talking about a wraith. There are so many fun plot hooks and so many fun stories I can think of if you were a wraith inhabiting the body of a vampire. This is where things could have gone in the family reunion plotline, where the characters are forced to hunt down Constancia. This is the kind of thing that you could just make stuff up off the top of your head because the ruling for Wraith is so loose in the V5 setting. At least it is for now at the time of this recording. So I would actually like to see some more defined rules for Wraiths in this setting. I would love to see Wraith the Oblivion 5th edition. That would be amazing. But if they do ever put that book out, one of the things that I'm really hoping for is a chapter on the Obsidian Mask. Give us something that lets us see what these things truly could be. Investing 5 traits into this lore sheet gets you the Lazarene Mask. You don the mask engraved in the image of one of the clan founders. For you know the true secrets of the Harbingers. Their crusade was never solely about destroying the Giovanni, but annihilating all those who serve the clan of death. The final stage of necromancy is for all who practice it to die and become the masters of death. You incur no stains for any action taken in the pursuit of killing another Hecata kindred, or any character who serves the Hecata. I love the idea of what is the end game, and the fact that not many kindred think that far ahead. I think that's a holdover from humanity. And obviously anybody who wears the Lazarene mask, which there shouldn't be that many of them, but the ones that do, they really just, they get the goal that they are here to witness the heat death of the universe, that they want to be the last of their kind. But that also means that even those who would be considered trusting members of the family do need to go down eventually. This doesn't mean that you have to be some Hecata assassin who's internally trying to take out your entire clan right now. But as a killer, as someone who studies death for the sake of death, to the ones who understand that death is going to finally be the last part of life, you are not going to suffer any kind of downward spiral of your own soul because you ushered members of your own family through this. Where in most cases, when you look at like possibly what your chronicle tenets are, killing insiders, specifically coterie mates, could very well cause you to suffer from severe moral degradation. Where in this case, that's the end game. That is really what you're going for in the end anyway, is to make sure that everyone fully fulfills their purpose, and part of their purpose is to die, regardless of whether or not they're human or kindred. So I'm a huge fan of the Harbingers of Ashur lore sheet. I'm very lucky to, while running Black Sheep, which is completely finished at this point in time, I just need to actually do some minor edits and get them out there. I've become very familiar with most of the lore sheets for the Hecata. And I gotta say that the Harbingers of Ashur are probably one of my favorites, simply because of how vampiric it is, how non-human it is. And when I first started playing, I always had the mentality, oh, I got to play one of the normal clans because everybody is trying to play these weird oddball things. But when you really look at the Harbingers, there is no such thing as normal clan. There really is no such thing as oddball clans. There are clans that have a little bit more rarity that need to be taken into consideration. Like, I don't think everybody in the game should be running around playing True Bruja. I don't think everybody in the game should be running around playing Bali or anything like that, because they are not strange for being a vampire, but rare because the other vampires saw them as a threat at one point in time. I don't think that the Hecata should be any less than the Ventru. I don't think that the La Sombra should be any less than the Bruja. And I don't think any Tzimisce should be less than the Toreador. These are all standard clans. And I think V5 has really brought that into the forefront with the way that disciplines can go off depending on what individuals are eating. For the most part, I understand that there are some things that are more of a taught science than a nature, but it is something really neat to take into consideration that there's no such thing as a strange clan. There's just rarity of blood. So, with all that, I want to say thank you for joining me for this Metaplot Monday and this Loresheet study into the Harbingers of Ashur. I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness, and if you're interested in helping me keep this going the way that it has been going, I do want to let you know that there is a Patreon, which you can go and join and get early access to videos when I have the time. Right now I'm trying to catch up, but early access to videos and other things that I throw in there every now and then just because I really appreciate the help. Also, there is there's special likings of videos on YouTube that you can throw in there that helps me gain the YouTube, stuff up there. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff, share. And I will see you next time in the next video in Our World of Darkness. Thank you very much. Good evening.